everybody? Welcome back to round 50 of Inside the Clinch with your boys, Johnny and Eric. John, we just had our first weekend of fights in 2022. How are you feeling on this wonderful Monday evening?
I'm feeling spectacular on this Monday evening after that great UFC card that we were privileged to watch, but I had a little bit of a scare earlier today. I had my uncle came over and I was upstairs in my room and I just hear people screaming. And I walk downstairs and my dog is attacking my uncle. So I'm kind of still getting over that. It was a little bit of scary. It was seeing nothing really happened, thank God. But yeah, that's how my day was. How was your day?
I was actually at work today. A lot of people were off for Martin Luther King's Day. I was working and I actually came into a flood in my office. We have a dentist office right above us and some sprinklers went off. So we got flooded. So half my office was flooded this morning. So quite an interesting Monday I had myself.
Shout out to the King. Happy Martin Luther King Day to the audience. Yeah, so I guess what better way to end off our day with than talk about some MMA?
Always makes the day better, right? So we
That's what
just
I.
had a really good UFC event. I actually missed the prelims, to be honest. I did catch the main card though, but from what I heard, the prelims were a bit dry. There weren't really any finishes until like 6 or 7 fights in, I heard, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there were no finishes on the prelims. The first finish of 2022 was actually Viacheslav, or I should know how to pronounce his name since I'm Russian. But that was the first finish of 2022. We'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, it was
Slava Claus.
Slava Claus. Is that no? That's not his name.
That's his nickname.
Oh, Slava Claus.
That's what I
But
think Uriah Faber calls him.
how do you pronounce his first name? Vyacheslav?
Viacheslav, yeah.
Vyacheslav. Yeah, so that was the first finish of 2022. Was in the most exciting prelims, but I was enjoying it because like we haven't been able to watch any MMA, so any action was good action on Saturday night. So I was thankful for that.
Yeah, man. Let's start off with the main event, though. Calvin Kattar, man, pulling up a crazy upset against Giga Chikadze, handing Giga his first loss in the UFC. A lot of people have been counting out Calvin Kattar. I think including Giga. I think Giga was already looking at the title shot. He was looking past his opponent, it sounded like, on the build up to the fight at the press conferences. It seemed like more of the questions were about Giga and the title shot rather than Giga and Calvin Kattar. And as I always like to say, that's a big sign to me that, your head's not in the game. We're going to get into it later, but I feel like Francis is dealing with a bit of that right now himself. So I'm a little bit hesitant to put my money on Francis, but we'll get into that a little bit later on in the episode. But Giga, man, fucking warrior, took a beating. What a chin. The guy doesn't. Calvin Kattar basically just did to Giga what Max Holloway did to him. Like it's pretty crazy. He gave him a beating. Giga hung in there. He started off okay in the beginning of the first round, but then he got taken down. And after that, it just seemed like he kind of got exhausted, a little bit tired, slower. And then from there, Calvin Kattar just picked him apart and brought it to a unanimous decision win after 5 rounds.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about Francis, but as you said, we'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, I mean, I was one of the people that counted Calvin Kattar out. I mean, how could you not count him out after that fight with Max Holloway? I feel like his performance was not to the extent of Max Holloway. I know that a lot of people are comparing their performances to one another, but he did put on a clinic. The first round, Giga comes out strong, heavy with the punches, kicks, but he slips, and Calvin Kattar gets on top. Is able to get ground control the rest of the round, and he wins the next 4 rounds in pretty remarkable fashion. So I was really, really impressed with Calvin Kattar. A lot of people have doubted him. A lot of people thought he was going to lose, including myself. And after that win, how do you not respect the guy?
Honestly, you could have given Calvin the first round too, depending on how you scored it. Giga did do better in the stand-up, but I think they were only standing for like a minute and a
No,
half.
that's what I said. So Giga comes out very strong with the punches, kicks,
Yeah.
and then he slips. And once he slipped, Calvin Kattar utilized that to his advantage, jumped on him, and had ground control for like over 2 minutes. So that was his round. So all 5 rounds were Calvin Kattar's in my book.
Yeah, he put on a clinic. Like I said, I was very surprised. Even with Giga losing, I'm not as surprised that he lost. It's more so the way that he lost. Because like pretty much after the second round, he kind of didn't really have much of an answer. He was kind of just taking a beating. Calvin Kattar's elbows looked beautiful in there. A lot of people are calling it the elbow jab now.
His boxing in general was beautiful.
It was phenomenal. Like you said, his defense was also just great. Like you texted me this weekend, where was all this during the Max Holloway fight? If I mean, look, I think again, like I said previously, I think that speaks more to Max than it does to Calvin. But Calvin definitely redeemed himself here, and I think one more big win, and he could potentially be knocking on a title shot door.
Listen, I think that Calvin Kattar learned a lot from the Max fight. As you said, he kind of did the same thing to Giga as Max did to him. So I mean, his boxing was beautiful. I don't think that. Would you say he deserves a title shot next? Or
I think one more big win against like a top 3 contender.
So I think that the fight to make right now is Brian Ortega versus Yair Rodriguez, being that they both lost to Max Holloway.
That's going to be a
crazy
fight.
I think that Kattar should wait around and fight the winner of that fight. And if he wins that fight, then the title shot is right there for him. But I feel like he should take some time off. I know that he didn't sustain that much damage, but it was a pretty bad war. So I would like him to rest. And I mean, I was in awe. Like I like to say, I was in freaking awe on Saturday night. And I'll never doubt Calvin Kattar again.
Yeah, the guy looks phenomenal. I like that matchup for him a lot. I think the winner of Yair and Brian Ortega would be a title eliminator. You know what I mean? Like Brian Ortega is coming off a loss of the champion. Yair Rodriguez is gunning for his first title shot. You know, he's been going through the division with the exception of Max Holloway. So he's actually very bitter right now that Korean Zombie got the title shot because as we all know, I think it was 2019. It was the knockout of the year. He did a spinning back elbow, knocked Korean Zombie out literally the last second of the last round. You couldn't have scripted it any better, but he's very bitter that Korean Zombie got the title shot. And to be honest, I kind of would put Yair over Korean Zombie. I don't know unless there was some kind of negotiation issues.
I mean, I would put Yair over Korean Zombie as well. The problem is that he just lost to Max Holloway, and Korean Zombie's coming off a win, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Korean Zombie he's not beating anyone good. He's not looking great in my opinion as of late. I kind of don't agree with him getting a title shot, but
I mean, I'm not really too excited for that fight. I'm not really excited for that fight at all. I think that Volkanovski's going to run through him. Korean Zombie is a good fighter, but Volkanovski, I feel like, is a really bad matchup for him. He's a lot stronger than he is. But, I mean, let that fight happen. Like I said, I want the Yair Rodriguez and Brian Ortega, and then I want to see Calvin Kattar get the winner of that fight. But one thing that I wanted to mention, Giga, so he came out and he said that if they fought 10 times, that he thinks that he would have won 9 out of 10 times. What are your thoughts on that statement?
If he said 6 out of 10 times, okay, maybe. But like after a performance like that, you cannot come back and say 9 out of 10. Like, I'm sorry. If he said like 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10, I'd be like, maybe okay. But like not after a beating like that. You know what I mean? That was too one-sided of a fight for him to claim something like that, in my opinion.
I feel like with Giga is going to be tough for him because like he's obviously good in the stand-up. I think he kind of gassed out a little bit in the second round, but his grappling is just not there. And I feel like with an experienced wrestler, I know that Calvin Kattar wrestled in high school, but like with an experience like a Dagestani wrestler or like an NCAA All-American or something like that, I feel like he's going to have
Ortega.
Yeah, I think that he's going to have problems if Brian Ortega learns how to strike, because, you know, Brian Ortega is not great in that department. But I feel like if Brian Ortega gets him down to the floor, it's going to be a tough night for him.
I agree with you 100%. So on the co-main event, Jay Collier got a submission win against Chase Sherman. A lot of people were very surprised at how quick he was able to get the job done there. Prior to that, we had Brandon Royval getting a split decision win over Rogerio Bontorin. I don't know about you, but I think that was a robbery. I think it should have been 2-1 Rogerio. I thought he won the last 2 rounds. I don't know what the judges were looking at. I thought it was pretty clear. It was 2-1.
I mean, I think that Royval was supposed to lose. I actually just watched the fight right now. I rewatched it. I don't know if I would consider it a robbery. It depends how you look at the fight, because Royval was clearly ahead in the striking department, but Bontorin got takedowns, like 2 or 3 takedowns in the first round. I feel like he was more dominant in the fight, but I feel like when he got the takedowns, he didn't really do much. But I feel like overall, I think that Bontorin should have won that fight, and I was a little bit surprised to see that happen.
I thought he was controlling his opponent. You know, it should count for something on the ground. I mean, he was overpowering him, in my opinion. And
he was taking him down. He was
yeah.
I mean, I feel like he should have won. I don't know if I would consider robbery, as I said, but I think
I thought it was 2-1, very obvious. 2 rounds to 1. I thought it was very clear, but I'm no judge.
I mean, Royval is like doesn't like you said before the fight happened. He's like doesn't stand on his feet. Like he's very loosey goosey and like he just falls down when like he's pushed. He's like he's like a child in there, and
He is.
he didn't like he had a few submission attempts, but nothing really came out of it. I feel like the difference for him was that he kept going forward. The pace was a little bit in his favor. With the volume was in his favor, but I feel like overall, if you're watching the fight, I feel like it was clear to see that he was not the better fighter in that night.
I agree with you 100%. So prior to that, we had Katlyn Chookagian getting another unanimous decision win over Jennifer Maia. So she's 2-0 against Maia now. This was the last fight on her contract. Katlyn has been at the number 2, number 1 spot in the rankings for quite a while now. She's been beating most of the UFC division with the exception pretty much of Valentina Shevchenko. Obviously, no one's really gunning for that fight with her and Shevchenko. That fight wasn't very competitive. But Katlyn, she's pretty much fought all the other girls. She made a claim earlier this week that she has the most top 10 fights or top 10 wins, male or female. Which I mean, obviously there's a difference in level of competition in her division and like, you know, some like, for example, the men's lightweight or men's middleweight division, but stats are stats, you know what I mean? The UFC now, I guess they're debating whether or not to re-sign and extend her contract, which is going to be curious to see. She's not the biggest draw, but she is a winner. So it'll be curious to see what kind of decision the UFC makes here.
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed with her on Saturday night. I thought it was a pretty clear win for her.
Yes.
Where does UFC go from here with her? I have no idea. I hope they keep her. I think that she's pretty good. She lost to Valentina Shevchenko and I believe Jessica Andrade. But those are, like I said in the last podcast, those are the top 2 girls in the division. So I mean, I'm not gonna say because, you know, prior to the Amanda Nunes fight with Jennifer Maia, you know, how we talk shit about Amanda Nunes not being able to lose. So I'm not going to say that with the Valentina Shevchenko because, I mean, everybody's capable of losing on any given night. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't really see her beating Valentina Shevchenko. I feel like it's just she's going to be fighting and beating most of the girls except the Valentina Shevchenkos of the world, which is unfortunate for her, but it is what it is.
So is it worth it for her to stay in the UFC or maybe go to a different organization to get a belt or like PFL to get $1 million if you win the tournament?
I mean, that's up to her. I mean, she's been in the UFC for a while. She's fought pretty much all the top girls in the division, winning some, losing some. So, I mean, I don't know. It would make I wouldn't see that. I wouldn't be surprised if she made a transition to a different organization and faces some new blood. Maybe becomes a champion in another organization.
I agree. That wouldn't be too surprising. But honestly, I think she's a very likable person. I think she's a very marketable person. And look, her fights may not be the most exciting, but if you're an MMA fan, you can appreciate the dynamic of her. You know, she's able to take it to stay on the feet. She's able to take it to the ground. She's able to control you on the ground. So she's a very well-rounded fighter. But like you said, she's not on the Valentina Shevchenko level.
Yeah, I think that with her win on Saturday night, she just tied Valentina Shevchenko's record for the division's most wins. So she has that going for herself. But well, how much does that mean? I don't really know.
So prior to that on the card, we had Viacheslav Borshchev, aka Slava Claus, defeating Dakota Bush in round 1, 3 minutes 47 seconds of round 1. This fight was very interesting. Dakota Bush came out strong. He hit Viacheslav with some pretty big bombs, and there were a couple of moments in the fight where Viacheslav was a little dazed, and the commentators were saying that Slava Claus was starting off slow, that he was getting a read on his opponent, that, you know, he's just kind of gauging the reactions, and Dakota Bush did happen to land a few shots during that process. So he did get a little bit of a wake-up call, but beautiful, beautiful knockout. And even better was the celebration, the little dance, the Russian dance. I don't even know what it's called, the squatting, flaring your legs out. I think he's a great fighter and potentially the next big star in the UFC.
Yeah, so we're going with Slava Claus. Is that what we're going to be referring to him as?
That's it, Slava Claus it is.
I mean, Slava Claus came to this fight with a lot of hype. You know, he's alumni of the Dana White Contender Series. I thought that Bush was winning the round. He had the takedowns. He had some nice strikes, as did Slava Claus. But he does land a nice liver shot closer to the end of the round and puts Bush away. I mean, I'm not gonna say I wasn't impressed with his performance, but I feel like with a high caliber wrestler, once again, I feel like he's gonna have a lot of problems because if Bush, someone is not really known for his wrestling ability, is able to take him down and is able to control him on the ground for the amount of time that he did, I feel like with somebody with more experience, I feel like it's gonna be a difficult night for him because even when Bush took him down to the ground, you see the mistakes that he does of letting him get back up. I feel like with the more experienced grappler, they would not let him get back to his feet and control the fight standing up. But even in the standing department, Bush did get some nice shots on him. So, I mean, it is what it is. It was his first fight, I believe, in the UFC. Was it?
Second after oh no, yes, it was the Dana White Contender Series, and then this was his debut. Yep.
Okay, so maybe that has a factor. I don't know, but nice personality. The dance was awesome. If you missed the dance, go to our Instagram, Inside the Clinch MMA. I posted it right after the fight. What a beautiful welcome to 2022 with that great knockout.
So yeah, just to add, he's fairly young in his MMA career. He's only about 7 fights, it looks like. Yeah, 7 fights in. He's 30 years old, so he's not the youngest, but he's relatively young. So, he's still in the early stages where he can make changes, make adjustments. Obviously, he's not going to become a phenomenal wrestler overnight. But if he focuses on these areas now, I think earlier on in his career, I think it'll have great returns.
Yeah, something that Michael Bisping said on the broadcast, which I thought was interesting. I feel like he said that fighters such as how do you pronounce him again?
Viacheslav.
Fighters such as Viacheslav, they should start sparring basically from the ground and
working their way up.
Work their way up to the feet because they're experienced on the feet, but where they lack is on the ground. So what most fighters are going to do is they're going to try to get them to the ground. So I thought that was I think that's a smart tactic that Bisping mentioned, and I hope he's able to improve in that department because he has a personality, he has a striking. The grappling is a little bit lacking, but I hope he's able to work on it. And my opinion of him changed a bit.
Side note on Bisping, I'm reading his autobiography right now, Quitters Never Win. It's a great, great book. Definitely recommend it. Just wanted to put that out there. It's a pretty interesting book. And, I love Michael Bisping when I was younger, but I have definitely a newfound respect for the guy just to have an inside understanding of what he's gone through. So if you guys haven't read that, Quitters Never Win by Michael Bisping, definitely worth a read.
How far into it are you?
Up to 2012. So he's about to fight Anderson Silva, I think, in 1 or 2 more fights.
Wait, he starts off the book. It's just his UFC career or his whole life?
I mean, he starts off, talking about martial arts when he was younger, and working his way into pro MMA and the UFC eventually through the Ultimate Fighter. Kind of just like his thoughts, what he's gone through for his training camp, his management team and his family and stuff. I don't want to give away too many details, but it's from the fighter perspective.
Michael Bisping is an absolute maniac. I just saw I just read something about him the other day. He had 6 fights in the UFC after he lost his eye. How insane is that? Imagine losing your eye, God forbid, and you're in the UFC and you have to I would probably quit the sport. If I lose my eye because of the sport, but he had 6 more fights, risking losing his other eye, risking more injuries. Quitters, what is the book called? Quitters Never Win?
Quitters Never Win, man.
I mean, he's the epitome of that because I would have quit if I lost my eye.
God forbid, like you said, that's a horrible injury. And the guy's a warrior. I haven't gotten to that part of the book yet, so we'll see. He did mention in a fight or two, there was a couple of fingers that poked him that grazed it. So I don't know if that's, in the book building up to the actual injury, but obviously we know what happens closer to, 2018? He revealed it, I think, for the first time, right? 2019.
I'm not sure when he revealed it, but it was a video of him taking his eyeball out, being typical Michael Bisping. But yeah.
All right, so just a quick wrap up the main card. We had Bill Algeo surprisingly getting the win over Joanderson Brito. That was the first fight of the main card this past weekend. You and I were wrong.
Yeah, you and I were wrong, ending his 11th fight winning streak.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But hey, UFC's a different level, right? Bill Algeo's back in the win column. I think he's 2-1 now in the UFC. The first round, Joe Anderson.
He's 2-2.
2-2.
He was 2-1 before, so now he's 2-2.
Joanderson Brito started the first round pretty well. He started, I think he landed the more powerful shots. He got a nice takedown in the first round, But it's like after that first round, his gas tank kind of emptied out and he didn't really have much gas left to do anything. Bill Algeo started picking him apart, landing the bigger shots, keeping him at range, and he got the job done via unanimous decision after 3 rounds.
Yeah, so I misspoke. He was 1-2. Now he's 2-2. I mean, dude, I lost all my bets on Saturday night. And to the listeners, if you guys took mine and Eric's advice, we're sorry. But, you know, shit happens. It's MMA, and you got to live with it.
So that was it for the main card this past weekend. Just going to read through the prelims. We had Jamie Pickett getting a unanimous decision win over Joseph Holmes. Court McGee getting a unanimous decision win over Ramiz Brahimaj. Brian Kelleher getting a unanimous decision win over Kevin Kroom. TJ Brown getting a unanimous decision win over Charles Rosa. So prelims were all decision. So like we said, there was not much action until we got to Slava Claus in the main card, the second fight in the main card.
Yeah, not the most exciting card, but I mean, it's good to have MMA back. And with the main event, we have a fight of the year contender. So, I mean, I know it's early to say that, but it was a pretty exciting fight back and forth. So like, what else can you ask for?
Yeah, I heard these, I guess, I don't want to say rumors, but people calling it the fight of the year. And I mean, so far, yes, it technically
Which is
the
kind
fight
of
of the
silly.
year.
It's kind of a silly statement, fight of the year. Like, what are you comparing it to?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, it's a great fight and it should be definitely a notable fight of the year. But I'm sure by the end of 2022, we're going to have, or at least by the end of 2022, we get some better fights. Not that this was a bad fight, but compared to what we saw in 2021 and 2020, my bar is like up here for this year, man. It's very high.
I mean, this fight is kind of at a disadvantage because it happened so early. And you know how the recency bias works. You know, when we're picking our winners in like last year when we were picking it, like we remember the fights that happened recently. So it was a great fight, great way to start off 2022. Who the hell thought that was going to happen? I was very surprised in Giga. I really didn't think the fight was going to go that way, but props to Keator. What a beast. And never doubt yourself, dude. Never doubt yourself. Like, what a monster.
Guy's a beast. Congrats again, Calvin Kattar. That was it for UFC Vegas 46. Next up this weekend, we have UFC 270 going down, the first pay-per-view of the year, headlined by the heavyweights Francis Ngannou and Ciryl Gane unifying the belts. Francis Ngannou has the undisputed heavyweight title right now, while Ciryl Gane has the interim heavyweight belt. Look, a lot of drama here, a lot to unpack. Ciryl and Francis used to be training partners. I think Francis mentioned that it was only for a short term, so they weren't training together very long or very frequently, but they did get to feel each other out for at least a little bit. Francis has since left that gym, left that team, and it seems like there's some bitterness between the former coach, the former gym, and Francis. I don't know if Francis is just puffing his chest out because he's a champion or if there's any actual unfriendliness going on over there. But in terms of the fight, one thing that I'm not liking a lot, this is the last fight on Francis's contract, and I don't like how much the conversation is around his contract instead of around his fight. Like we were just saying about Giga, like when you're not 100% focused on the fight, when you're looking past your fight, even forget the next fight, he's looking at his contract instead of the fight in front of him. I think it's just a bad sign in my opinion. Obviously, it's the contract situation is something you have to pay a lot of attention to and give a lot of energy and focus to. But in my opinion, either you pay someone to deal with that stuff or you deal with it after the fight. In my opinion, I don't exactly like where Francis's head is at for this fight. And to me, that's kind of a bad sign. I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, to give a little background on this whole thing. So Francis signed an 8-year deal in 2017. This is going to be his 8th fight out of that deal. And he doesn't want what he says.
8-year deal or 8-fight deal?
8-fight deal. My bad. What did I say? 8-year deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. He said he signed an 8-fight deal in 2017. So this is going to be his 8th fight. So what he is unsatisfied with, he doesn't want to make $500,000, $600,000 per fight.
That's so little.
I mean, like compared to boxing, yeah, that is not a lot of money, but
what is in boxing though? I hate these We're not in boxing. You know what I mean?
What does he want? Like, I don't really know. Like before I kind of understood him when he wasn't able to get a fight, when I thought that the UFC wasn't giving him like I thought he was getting paid really little before, but now that I see that he's getting paid $500,000, $600,000, I mean, like, it's the UFC. Like, what do you want? Like, that's how much the fighters get paid here. So, to your point, I do agree that he shouldn't have brought this up and made it such a big deal prior to the fight and take his attention from the fight. I don't know how much that's going to play a factor, but he has probably his toughest opponent in front of him in Ciryl Gane. I don't know. And to your point, what you were saying about the training thing. So what Francis has to say about that is he said that Ciryl Gane is basically utilizing that little clip to his advantage because Ciryl Gane was kind of winning in that little clip of them sparring. I don't really know if they have beef or not. There's also another clip of Francis Ngannou walking past Ciryl Gane in some lobby or something like that. And then I saw some funny reenactment of the whole thing, which I thought was pretty hilarious. But the fight itself, I mean, it's a technical fighter in Ciryl Gane against a freaking monster of human nature and Francis Ngannou. So I don't know. Who do you have in the fight?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Francis only really needs. Okay, so this is how you got to look at this fight, in my opinion. One fighter only needs to be perfect for 1 second. The other fighter needs to be perfect for 25 minutes or however long the fight goes. Francis only really needs to hit you with one shot and you're out. Ciryl Gane, he's technical. You know, I think he can move in and out. He's light on his feet, like I always like to say, and he's just overall more well-rounded than Francis is. The big question here is, I think, how strong is Ciryl Gane's chin? I think is going to be a very big question. And then, look, at the end of the day, I think these two have an idea of who's better. You know what I mean? You don't have to go necessarily at 100% with someone to sometimes know, like, who's better, like if it ever came down to it. So I think between them two and the coach, I think those are the only three that really know how this fight is going to end. And regardless of who is better, I think it's a big advantage to Ciryl Gane for staying in that gym, because although Francis could have evolved since he left the gym, that old coach, I'm sure has seen loopholes in Francis's game because he was trying to tighten up those loopholes, I'm assuming, right? So now he can teach all these loopholes to Ciryl Gane. And, you know, assuming that they formulated a solid game plan, I think that Ciryl Gane might have a perfect recipe here, which is very crazy that a year ago, I was saying if Francis ever got the belt, he would be holding that belt down for years, probably until he retires. And this is his first defense. And I'm already saying he might fucking lose it. How insane is this?
Yeah, so I think there's a big difference between sparring and fighting in front of millions of people. But if you look at Francis' last 5 fights, so I have them right in front of me. So he beat Blades via TKO in 45 seconds. He beat Cain Velasquez via first round knockout in 26 seconds. He beat JDS in about 1 minute and 10 seconds. He beat Rosenstruck in 20 seconds. And he beat Stipe in round 2 via KO. So the last 5 fights, all knockouts. I mean, Gane is pretty much 10-0, so he hasn't lost yet. But, I mean, I don't know. It's like, as you said, like one has to be perfect for the entire fight and the other just has to land one clean hit. And I mean, it's a matter of whether he could get that clean hit because Ciryl Gane, as we see, is beautiful on his feet. The footwork is one of a kind. So I don't know if Francis could catch him. I have faith that he could, but I don't know. It's tough.
I think if Ciryl Gane can figure out how to utilize the jab and keep poking Francis Ngannou, I don't think he should look for that knockout hit against Francis. I think if he just keeps poking him with the jab, with a hook here and there, I think he's going to frustrate Francis enough where Francis is kind of just going to abandon whatever game plan he comes in with and, you know, either start wildly swinging or just shut down like he did in the Derek Lewis fight. I think if he picks at him and, you know, slowly picks him apart without getting too overzealous, I think Ciryl Gane could get the job done.
So we already know, like, we know the type of fight that Francis is not really comfortable in. We saw when he fought Stipe Miocic. Stipe Miocic in their first fight was able to take him down 6 times and basically pose his will on the ground. And one thing to note about this fight is that Ciryl Gane, his takedown accuracy is not very high. So he's 20% on his takedowns. He went 2 for 14 on his takedowns with Rosenstruck, 0 for 4 of takedowns with Volkov. So, I mean, I don't know if he's able to utilize that type of game plan. And I mean,
Volkov is huge though, to be fair. He's very big, height-wise.
That's what I'm trying to say. I feel like he's going to have a hard time if he chooses to utilize that type of game plan, I feel like he's going to have a hard time taking down Francis Ngannou, because Francis Ngannou has evolved in mixed martial arts. He's not, I feel like he knows how to defend a takedown a little bit better than he did when he fought Stipe the first time. But I don't know. It's going to be, I don't know. I'm having a really hard time picking who I think is going to win this fight.
Same here, man. Same here. I've been leaning over the last couple of days. I've been leaning towards Ciryl Gane, but if you asked me last week, I wouldn't be able to tell you.
And another thing, I don't want Francis Ngannou to leave the UFC. Like, I know that he's not satisfied with the money, but like, I love Francis Ngannou. Like, he's what fighter do you like watching more than Francis Ngannou? Like, it's going to be a crazy fight when Francis Ngannou's out there.
First of all, anywhere in any league you put Francis outside the UFC, it's just straight up murder. It's criminal to have him fight anywhere other than the UFC, just because there's no one I think that even comes close. Second, just to touch on something I said earlier, 500,000-600,000 not being a lot. For championship money, if he's making 500,000-600,000, I think that is pretty low. I think if 500,000-600,000 is what he was getting paid before he got the belt, I think that's pretty fair money. Compared to what other fighters openly make in the UFC. But if 500,000-600,000 is what he's making as a champion, I do think that's a bit low, especially in the biggest, baddest division in the UFC. So again, this stuff should have been, I know you said that we keep saying that this got brought up during fight week, but in reality, this has been something in conversation for over a year already with Francis's team, with Dana. So I hope we can have them both focus on a fight, deal with contract disputes afterwards. One more thing I want to say, I really hope they reinforce this cage with like double steel, double whatever, because these are the two biggest fucking men probably on that roster. And holy shit, I feel like it's going to be an earthquake. If one happens to like slam the other one down somehow, I feel like the whole venue is going to just fucking shake.
I mean, yeah, Francis is fucking huge. I mean, we have Derek Lewis. Let's not forget about him. He's fucking
but they're not built the way these guys are.
Yeah, Francis Ngannou is built like a freaking monster. But you know what I think Francis Ngannou wants to do? We see him talking shit to Tyson Fury now. He's spoke about how he wants to fight Tyson Fury in boxing. I'm sure he wants to get that payday in boxing. So maybe that's his ultimate plan. Maybe that's what he's thinking about right now. I mean, if he wants to do that, I completely understand that. But it sucks to see if he were to leave the UFC when he's dominating like this, you know?
Based on, I think, what Ariel and Chael Sonnen have both said, I think part of the issue that Francis is having is that he wants the opportunity to box within his UFC contract. One thing I don't understand, if there's so many UFC fighters that want to box, the UFC owns Zuffa Boxing. You know what I mean? I don't know exactly where that stands, but I do know it's like, it is an organization that I guess is functioning, quote unquote, like it is under the UFC's, I guess, parent company. So why don't they, at the very least, let the UFC fighters box amongst themselves? Maybe pay them a little bit less, but it'll let the fighters be active. It'll give them another way to make money. And you have a brand new product to promote and potentially make money. Who knows? Maybe Zuffa Boxing could make more money than mixed martial arts. You know what I mean? Like, you never know until you try. I just feel like there's enough fighters on the rosters that are begging to box that you can at least give a shot. You know what I mean? At least one card to see how it goes, in my opinion.
I mean, I totally agree. I don't really know how the Zuffa Boxing, how it works, but you know how Dana White is, very stubborn in his approach. He does whatever he wants to do. Like, he doesn't really care what the media says or what the fighters have to say. He just does whatever is best for him and whatever he thinks is best for the company. So this is what he thinks is best. You and I might not agree with it, but it is what it is. The big boss man said no, and no's no when he says no.
It is what it is. He's the boss man.
It is what it is, man.
All right, so final pick. Who are you picking? I said Ciryl Gane. Now you need a pick.
I mean, I'm going to pull a U last week when you didn't give me an answer to the fight that I asked for. So I can't pick. I don't know.
Gun to your head, like you tell me every single time. Gun to your head, pick.
You're going, I don't know, because
current odds are plus 105 Francis, minus 125 Ciryl Gane on the UFC website. So Francis is an underdog by a little bit.
And we see what Francis does when he's an underdog. He was an underdog in the Curtis Blades fight. He was an underdog in the Cain Velasquez fight. So he's an underdog once again. He's not really a big underdog, but I'm going to go with Francis. Fuck it. I feel like Francis, as you said, he's not really focused on this fight. Like, he's thinking about getting out of the UFC, making more money, fighting Tyson Fury, whatever it is. And I don't know how seriously he's going to take it, where we know that Ciryl Gane, that's all he wants to become the UFC champion. Like, he's the interim champion right now, and that's his main focus. He's hungrier, I feel like. So I don't know. I hope a good Francis Ngannou shows up. I hope we don't get like a reenactment of the Francis Ngannou and Derek Lewis. That was pathetic. So I hope Francis Ngannou that we know and love shows up. And if that's the case, I'm going to go with Francis Ngannou.
So in the co-main event, Brandon Moreno versus Deiveson Figueiredo 3 is going down. These two first fought in December of 2020, which ended in a majority draw. And they rematched in June of 2021, which ended in Brandon Moreno getting a rear naked choke in the second round, making him the undisputed UFC flyweight champion. I don't know. The first fight was very, very close. The second fight was pretty one-sided, in my opinion. Brandon Moreno made a lot of good adjustments. Deiveson Figueiredo, I feel like, overlooked his opponent. But to be honest, post-fight, after the fight was done, there was a lot of excuses coming out from the Deiveson Figueiredo team between Waleed, who's his manager, I believe, coach or manager, whatever that relationship is. I think, on a side note, Waleed is a shit stirrer, but that's besides the point. They were just making a lot of excuses, which I don't like. If you lose, like Darren Till, for example, he loses, whether it's injury, whether it's this or that, like, he doesn't make excuses for it. A loss is a loss, and he builds back from it. Deiveson Figueiredo, I don't know. I just hear in my opinion, a load of bullshit. I don't believe a lot of these excuses that he was saying. So if he's going to come in with the same cocky attitude, I feel like it's going to go the same way that the last fight went. But if he does dial in, I do think he can do as well as he did in the first fight. Because in the first fight, he looked a lot more crisp, a lot more powerful, and a lot more in control of the octagon. I felt like he was chasing Brandon Moreno down more in the first fight. And in the second fight, he kind of just had no control and got submitted.
Yeah, so in his first fight, he was the favorite. He was a minus 250 favorite. I feel like he won that fight. The reason he lost, the reason it was a draw was because if you remember, he got a point deducted for an illegal blow. So if that point wasn't deducted, he should have won that fight. The second fight was pretty lopsided.
Didn't he miss weight in the first fight as well? So he
sure.
wouldn't have been able to win the belt anyway. Or
that was with Benavidez. So Benavidez, he fought the first time, he missed weight, so he couldn't become the champion. And then the second time, he completely showered and washed Benavidez. Shout out Benavidez, what a good guy. But yeah, so I thought that he was supposed to. He was en route to winning the first fight, lost the second fight, which, as you mentioned, was pretty one-sided. I'm not really sure what the difference in the second fight was. I know that he made a lot of excuses, as you mentioned, but I think that one thing that's a big factor here is his age. He's 34, coming on 35 years old right now. Moreno is 28. So there's a difference in age. I feel like Moreno is more hungry. Figueiredo, I mean, what Figueiredo is saying is that he's going to avenge that loss. He said that he didn't come in ready to fight Moreno, and it's going to be a different night on Saturday night. But I don't know how much stock we could put into that, because Moreno, he looked amazing. I was so happy when he won. That post-fight speech, people still play it as like a motivational type of thing.
Dude, I was in the building for, I know I say it every time it comes up, but I was in the building for that day, and that just the energy in there when he won was crazy. It was in Arizona. A lot of Mexican fans were in attendance that day, and everyone was going crazy. Everyone was so excited for that win. Brandon Moreno is such a likable guy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know how you don't root for Moreno. What a stud. He said that he's gonna one day become the UFC champion, and then he becomes a champion.
Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day.
Yeah, so he becomes a UFC champion. Figueiredo, as you said, if he comes in remotely close to the way he did in the last fight, I feel like it's not gonna be a good night for him. I feel like Moreno kind of figured out Figueiredo in a way. He knows what he should and shouldn't do. Of course, he could get caught at any time, at any minute. What the submission attempts from Deiveson Figueiredo are nasty. But if Figueiredo comes in with a similar game plan, similar way that he did last fight, I feel like it's going to be a long night for him.
I was watching an interview Brandon Moreno gave, and it might have been a few weeks old. Like, I don't remember, but he was saying in the first fight he came in, strong, and the second one he kind of came out cocky. And the fight where he came out cocky was the fight where Brandon Moreno was able to take more control. Look, I like the guy a lot. I don't like the excuses that Figueiredo's team came out with. And to be honest, if there's any press that's going to be done this week, I want Figueiredo to have a real like Portuguese translator. I don't want him to have Waleed, because Waleed, like, Figueiredo can say 3 words and Waleed is going to go on for like 20 minutes on that translation, because Waleed is just, he puts his own fucking bullshit there.
Crazy.
From the promotional side, I get it, but I feel like he's a shit stir, and sometimes to the point where it's unnecessary.
Yeah, well, he is completely out of his mind. But one thing, I mean, you already mentioned it with the weight cut issues. So one problem that Figueiredo has been having in his career is the issue with the weight cut. You know, he had it with the Benavidez fight, as we mentioned, and so I feel like if it's a bad weight cut, again, it could be a tough night for him, because he cuts a lot of weight to get down to 125, and I feel like if he struggles with that, it could be a tough night for him.
I agree. I don't know. That was the one fight that he missed weight recently on. Since then, he seemed to have gotten his stuff together. It does look like a very, very dramatic cut for him, but I guess he hasn't really had an issue making weight since then. But that's definitely something to note for a champion.
Yeah, it's so crazy how when he was a champion, like we were comparing him to Mighty Mouse, and he kind of fell off. I don't know how much credit you should give Brandon Moreno for that, but I feel like it's kind of he started regressing, and at the same time, Moreno was hungrier and better, and he was able to become the champion, and good for him.
Look, I don't agree, but a lot of people were saying Moreno won on a fluke. So I think this third fight is going to really determine if Brandon Moreno is the real deal or Figueiredo is just fucking around. So I think a lot of questions going to be answered in this co-main event this Saturday.
So who's your final pick?
I'm going to go Brandon Moreno. I like Brandon Moreno. I like the vibes he gave me when I was in the building that day. And I would love everyone in that building this weekend, this Saturday, to feel the same energy that I felt. So let's go Brandon fucking Moreno.
I'm going to go with Brandon Moreno as well. I'm not going to be upset if Figueiredo wins, if he's able to bounce back to the old Deiveson Figueiredo, because you know how exciting that was. But I'm going to go with Moreno as well.
So prior to that, we have Michel Pereira fighting Andre Fialho. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Andre is making his UFC debut, formerly fighting on UAE Warriors, which is an Abu Dhabi promotion. He fought in PFL in 2019, and he fought in Bellator. And he actually, John, has a win over one of your favorite fighters ever at ex-MMA, James Vick.
Legend.
So he's going to be taking on Michel Pereira. You guys probably know him a bit better by his action in the octagon. He's the guy that's always flipping around, jumping around, and doing very abnormal moves within the octagon. Brazilian stud. Acrobatics, that's the right word for it. Look, in my opinion, I was watching some tape on Andre. He's not bad, but I think Michel Pereira is a lot stronger. I think he's a lot more technical. And what I've said for Pereira's last few fights, if he doesn't mess around too much, I think he'll win this fight. Obviously, we've seen him clowning around a lot less. And although it's entertaining to watch against lower level competition, you can't take the same risks once you're climbing up the rankings. You know, Andre is making his UFC debut, but, you know, he has a pretty solid record, 14-3. He has 11 knockouts and 1 submission and only 2 decisions. So the guy's, I think it's safe to call him a finisher. At the end of the day, though, I think the experience that Michel Pereira has and the power that he has, I think will be able to help him get the job done this weekend. I think via decision, though. I don't think he finishes him.
You're going with Pereira?
Pereira via decision, I believe.
Yeah, so what I feel like got Fialho, or however you pronounce his name, into the UFC. He had 4 knockout wins in 2021, one of them being one of my favorite fighters, James Vick, as you mentioned. So he fought in the PFL. He had 1 no contest, and he lost to Chris Curtis. I actually watched that fight a few hours ago. Chris Curtis, for those of you that don't know, he's in the UFC right now. Chris Curtis, I feel like, in my opinion, clearly dominated that fight. He went 4-5 in Bellator. Honestly, to be completely truthful, I haven't really watched many of his fights, mostly just that fight with Chris Curtis. And from what I saw, I mean, he's okay, but like with Pereira's striking, I feel like he's not gonna be able to knock out Pereira. And I feel like Pereira is just more experienced in the other departments, including the grappling, the submission. He's better everywhere, I feel like, including striking. So it's going to be a tough night for Fialho, but I'm going to go Pereira as well.
Look, someone like Pereira, I feel like the way you have to beat him is you have to destroy those legs. You got to go for those low calf kicks and you have to stop his movement because the guy's so unorthodox. Like the way he moves, he does spinning back elbows, he spins left, spins right, does a front flip, does a back flip. Like no one else moves that way in the octagon. So him being so unorthodox, I'm sure makes him hard to prepare for. But look, I think he has the power. I think he has the technique, and I think he has the experience to get the job done here.
So one thing that I noticed with Pereira, so he lost only once via knockout or TKO. He has a total of 37 fights, which is a lot of fights in the UFC, and only losing once via TKO or KO. It says a lot because that's the way that Fialho usually wins. And I feel like he's going to have a really hard time putting away Pereira. And Pereira, he has the momentum going on his side right now. If it wasn't for that Diego Sanchez fight where he lost via disqualification, he would have been on a 4-fight winning streak right now. And he's been looking a lot more impressive as of late. I feel like he still fucks around and does the crazy acrobatic kicks and punches and all that stuff. But I feel like he kind of is a little bit more together now and figured out how to win. And I feel like he's going to be able to either win by decision or he's going to be able to knock him out.
I agree. I have a feeling it's going to be a decision though, but I definitely think I'm thinking one-sided fight to be honest. But
and
UFC debut, you never know.
Fialho, he's chinny. Like you hit him, he gets knocked down. Like Chris Curtis Chris Curtis actually did put him out in the 3rd round via TKO. So, but prior to that, he got knocked down a few times. And I keep referencing this one fight because I haven't really watched too many fights on him, as I mentioned. But from what I saw, he's very chinny, and I feel like Pereira has that power to knock him out. So he has to be very careful on Saturday night.
So prior to that, we were supposed to have Greg Hardy versus Alexi Olynyk on the card, but that fight got scrapped. John, you know why that was?
Yeah, so Greg Hardy was supposed to fight Olynyk, and then Olynyk withdrew for some reason. I'm not really sure why. And then Sergey Spivak took his place, and then Greg Hardy actually withdrew because he broke his finger or something along those lines. But I feel like he dodged a bullet there. Greg Hardy not doing well as of late. So, I mean, I'm not really too bummed about that fight being canceled.
Yeah, I think Alexi Olynyk, if he would have been able to take Greg Hardy down, which wouldn't have been difficult for him, in my opinion, it would have been an easy sub. The guy has like 50 something submissions in his pro MMA career. So I think Greg Hardy would be easy to submit as long as he doesn't get punched by Greg's power.
Bro, Olynyk has like almost 80 fights.
Guy's an OG.
He's an OG, but like 59, his record is 59, 16, and 1. That's a lot of fucking fights in MMA.
Yeah, that is.
That's a lot of fights, dude.
All right, and to open up the main card this weekend, we have Cody Stamann taking on Saeed Nurmagomedov at bantamweight. Cody Stamann coming in on back-to-back losses. Saeed Nurmagomedov is coming off a 50-second knockout in October of 2020. So it's been a little while since we've seen him back in there, but that was a win after a loss that he had. So he came back strong, a knockout in under a minute. Just to break down the physical stats, Saeed will have a 2-inch height advantage and 6-inch reach advantage, which I think will play big factor. Looking at the fight stylistically, both guys are pretty well-rounded. I think Saeed is a little bit more diverse. I think his reach advantage, 6 inches, is a pretty big difference, especially at the bantamweight division. So I think that's going to be a big factor. I think he should try to keep Cody at a distance. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. Cody, I feel that he's a little bit stronger though. So I feel like he should try to grapple along the cage and maybe try to get the takedown and get some ground and pound along the corner of the fence. I think he's going to want to keep Nurmagomedov close because if he's going to keep him at range, I think he's just going to get picked apart. And he's coming on 2 losses. I know we said this last time. I just feel bad. I feel like he's going to lose this fight again. I just feel like stylistically, it's not a great fight for him. But the guy is such a great guy. You know, he's a very well-hearted guy. He lost his brother, I think it was recently. So it's tough to root against him, but unfortunately, I don't think that he's going to be able to get the job done here.
Yeah, I kind of jumped off the Cody Stamann bandwagon. I was a big fan of his. I mean, I think he's a great person and all, but this is going to be, as you mentioned, a very tough matchup for him, fighting Saeed Nurmagomedov. For those of you wondering, he's not Khabib's brother or cousin. He's just a fellow Dagestani. So that says a lot. He's a Dagestani, grew up in around the same area as Khabib. He's a former Akhmat champion, which is a Dagestani organization. And to be a champion there, you got to be good. And he's good. He's good. He does have holes in his game. But I feel like the reach advantage is going to be a big factor in this fight. Cody Stamann, when he fights, his arms look so small, like
he's stocky.
He's stocky, but like I don't know, to me, his arms look specifically smaller, like disproportionate from his body. I don't know. I think it's going to be a tough night for Cody Stamann, not doing well. Lost his last 2 fights, as you mentioned, one of them being to Rob, the other one being to Jimmy Rivera.
Both good fighters too.
Yeah, both great fighters. Saeed is 3-4 in the UFC. Is coming off a win. He has a beautiful KO win over Mark something. I don't remember his last name, but he's doing decently in the UFC, and I feel like his momentum is going to carry over, and he's going to be able to take out Cody Stamann. As you said, I feel like he's a more diverse fighter. He has a lot to offer in his arsenal. He's not just a striker, as a lot of people think. He does have a background in grappling as well in his early days. So I'm going to go with him.
One more thing just to build off of. I think for someone with a build like Cody Stamann, because he's shorter and stocky and more powerful, I think he needs to kind of adapt a more explosive style. Kind of stay composed, stay on the outside, but once he sees that opening, rush in with multiple big shots. Not the kind of pick apart technique that Saeed would probably approach him with. He wants to hit hard and hit fast and hit in bunches. So I'm no striker. I have a bit of grappling experience, but based on what I've watched over the years in MMA, I think that style would fit best for his physical build.
Yeah, I mean, that's easier said than done.
Absolutely.
But what you said earlier, you mentioned something earlier about what you think that Cody Stamann should utilize his wrestling, which I think is probably his best chance at winning. But one thing you got to take into consideration is that Saeed, he has very good takedown defense. He's, I believe, around like 70% in his takedown defense in his MMA career. So it's going to be tough. And as I said, a lot of people think he's just a striker, because that's the way he kind of fights, but he does have a background in grappling. He does have a background in submission grappling. He knows how to submit people. He knows how to do a lot of things in terms of grappling. So I'm gonna go with him. I know that most people are going with him. I saw, I believe on SureDog or Tapology, 80% of people are going with Saeed Nurmagomedov, and I agree with them. Gonna have to go with him as well.
Yeah, according to the UFC website right now, he's currently the biggest betting favorite on the main card at -200. So it's going to be UFC 270, guys, going down this Saturday. Early prelims are at 6 p.m. on UFC Fight Pass. Regular prelims will be on ESPN Plus and ESPN2 at 8 p.m. Eastern. And the main card, which will be on pay-per-view on ESPN Plus, that will be at 10 p.m. Eastern. This is going down in the Honda Center, Anaheim, California. We're getting the pay-per-view show back on the road, baby. Let's get it.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. It's going to be a fucking sick card. Very excited to see how Francis comes out, man. I'm so excited. I know that most MMA fans are, because it's such an intriguing matchup. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. And I know we could say that about a lot of fights, but this fight in particular is like, what's going to happen? Like, Francis is so powerful, and you kind of don't see Ciryl Gane losing. I don't know. It's
again the irony that I was saying, like through all of the last however many years, that whenever Francis gets the belt, he's holding that belt until he retires. And then his first fucking defense, where it's already like, holy shit, he might actually lose it. Either way, though, I think Ciryl Gane would probably be the only guy currently ranked that I think would give Francis a problem. The John Jones situation, I don't really know where that stands, so I'm not really considering that, to be fair. But aside from Ciryl, I don't see anyone really giving Francis a problem, and it's going to be a pretty fucking badass fight, this main event. I'm just really hoping we don't get a Derek Lewis fight again.
You know, a matchup I'm really excited. I would be really excited to see how it would play out. Maybe like not right now, but maybe 2-3 years ago. Stipe versus Ciryl Gane. I feel like that would be a pretty interesting fight, because neither of them have that crazy knockout power, as France do, both kind of technical fighters in a way. So I feel like that would be interesting. That would be an interesting fight to make if Ciryl Gane wins.
You wouldn't be interested in that fight if they were to make it next? Win or lose for Gane?
I mean, obviously I would be, but I feel like it would be more entertaining a few years ago. I think Stipe is kind of up there in age. Not really the same dominant Stipe Miocic as we were accustomed to seeing a few years ago. The most dominant heavyweight champion of all time, as people like to say. But I mean, obviously, I'll still watch the fight.
So, John, let's share a couple of bits of news before we wrap up this episode of Inside the Clinch. First thing I want to mention, I was listening to Ariel Helwani's show today, and Clownjamaine Sterling was talking some more shit against Peter Yan. So I thought it was only fair for me to bring that to the attention of our audience. So Aljamain was on Ariel Helwani's show saying that he's never even dropped a round, and Yan has actually dropped rounds before. Like you said 2 weeks ago, maybe Aljo didn't watch footage of his fight, or I don't know. He said a couple of times on the show that he couldn't really remember that day. So maybe he's misremembering a few things, but he clearly lost every single round that fight. And Yan lost what? The first round of the Sandhagen fight, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, Jan lost the fight, the round with Sandhagen, possibly, maybe he lost the round to Sterling, the first round as well. But that's kind of his game plan. He didn't really lose. That's just his tactical, the way he fights. But just for clarification, I'm just gonna mention the rounds that Sterling lost. So like he has losses in his career. So obviously he lost rounds. So he lost to Brian Caraway. That was a split decision loss. He lost to Rafael Assunção, another split decision loss. Lost to Marlon Moraes, and then we all saw how the fight was playing out with Piotr Yan, where he was completely demolishing and destroying Aljamain Sterling, making him look like he doesn't belong in there. So I feel like I said this already. If Yan becomes a little smarter and doesn't do dumb shit, it's going to be a very, very, very tough night for Aljamain Sterling, because he's levels above him. And that's not to hate on Aljamain Sterling, although he's been acting like a...
No, I want to hate on Aljamain. I don't give a shit. I want to hate on Aljamain Sterling.
I don't know, like this.
Does he
do it on purpose, like for people to hate him because he's so not likable?
This was always his shtick. Even if you look at a few years ago, he always wanted to be that cringy person. Like if you look at his interviews with the Schmo, even like 4 or 5 years ago, he was always this cringy personality. He walked around with a huge hollow like gold rope chain. Like his whole personality was always to be cringe. But he says when he wins on their rematch that's going down in April, when he wins, he's going to be very petty about it. Karma's going to bite him in the ass. He's going to get demolished, and I just can't wait for it. I can't wait to see him lose.
I mean, I think he's going to lose as well, but how crazy would it be if he wins that fight? That'd be absolutely insane. But he's talking shit right now to your boy, Sean O'Malley. A lot of beef going.
O'Malley's going to knock him out too.
I mean, he does have a legitimate point about O'Malley. O'Malley doesn't really fight any good fighters as of ever.
He'll still beat Sterling.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Sterling, I mean, listen, we could talk all the shit we want, but Sterling he beats some impressive people. He has a lot of wins in his career. He was a champion.
Yeah, but he will not beat Yan. He will not beat Yan. They can fight 100 times. He will not one time beat Yan.
I agree. I don't think he's going to beat Yan, but he does have wins over Sandhagen. I don't care what we have to say about that. He did beat Sandhagen. He choked him out. He beat Pedro Munoz. He beat Rivera. Beat your boy Cody Stamen, who's going to be fighting on this card. He lost to Rafael Assunção. So I mean, he has some pretty legitimate wins in the UFC. He was on a pretty long winning streak to start off his MMA career. 20-3 is his overall record. So obviously he's no scrub, but like just his personality just takes it all away from him because he's so cringeworthy and like not likable. Like especially the way he carried himself after that loss, which was so unnecessary. He could have just been like, yo, whatever, like I know shit happens, like obviously I won, I'm the champion, but like that shouldn't have been like that. But like the way he made everything, took the picture with the belt after and then said like I'm not the champion and like all that bullshit, I feel like that just ruined his whole character of Aljamain Sterling.
He's a drama queen. Like I said before, he was always going for the cringe personality. I think that was just to stand out, but I've never really been on board with Aljamain Sterling. And like you said, the way he's been acting post his Oscar award-winning performance, as he even quoted on Ariel's show today. Look, man, I'm just not on board with this guy, and I can't wait for Peter Yan to show him who the real champ is. He's going to show him who daddy is. And I mean, look, a lot of things brewing in that division in 2022, so I can't wait to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, but when it comes to Yan, on a different level, we saw it in the first fight. I don't care how it ended. We saw how it was playing out. Yan is clearly dominating. And the people that support Aljamain Sterling and the way he's acting are completely out of their mind because, like, I don't understand what they're supporting. It's like that was an Oscar-winning performance, and the way he's saying that he's a champion I don't know. I don't like him. I don't like the way he's presenting himself, and I hope he loses to Jan.
Enough wasting time on that clown. One more bit of news before we wrap up round 50. I was very, very surprised when I read this headline today, but Jake Paul's next opponent is in the works, and believe it or not, it's against Mike Tyson. Now, I don't know which athletic commission this is going through, but whoever sanctions this, if they do, they need to go to jail and get their fucking license removed. How do you sanction a 30-year age difference? How do you sanction this fight? What right mind are you to sanction a fight like this? Like, I'm sorry, you need to lose your license if this is what you approve. This is crazy.
Yeah, you go say all that shit about like Mike Tyson is a former world champion in boxing, where Jake Paul hasn't really accomplished anything, but like the age difference is the age difference. And one thing that we have to remember about Jake Paul is that he is an athlete at the end of the day. He does have the power. He might not be the most technical fighter, but he does have the power. And this is clearly not a fair matchup for Mike Tyson. I know the biggest reason that they're fighting is because they're making a shitload of money, something around like $36 million or something along those lines. So
bro, those are all bullshit projections.
It's obviously all about the money, but like, you know, every fight that Jake Paul is having, and this is not to hate on Jake Paul because I think that has a brilliant game plan because he looks like he's kind of good, but it's all set up. Like all these fights are all set up. Tyron Woodley wasn't a boxer. Tyron Woodley was not doing well. Ben Askren, not a striker, wasn't doing well. All these fights that he's had, Nate Robinson, a basketball player, no experience in boxing. Like all these fights are set up perfectly for him to win. And this fight with Mike Tyson is the same thing. He's clearly stronger. He's clearly in better condition. And Mike Tyson is old as fuck, smokes weed all day long, shouldn't be in there. And as you said, it's 31 to be exact, 31-year age difference.
And you want to hear something else that's crazy?
And Jake Paul hits hard. He hits fucking hard.
Jake Paul doesn't get tested for steroids. He was supposed to get tested for his last few fights. Everyone was waiting for the Woodley rematch. Apparently, they were supposed to get drug tested for that, and he still never came out with his drug test results. So I'm not saying that he necessarily is cheating, but there's a lot of shady shit going down over there. And I think it's just I think whoever is making this fight is out of their fucking minds because there's no way you sanction this fight.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's cheating, but I mean, if Tyson is up for it, like whatever, I think he's out of his mind. But it's Mike Tyson. He could win. He could win.
Bro, I don't know how you sanction this. I'm sorry. This is criminal. I don't know how else to say it. It's criminal.
It is criminal because like you have all the world titles in the world. When you're that age, you shouldn't be fighting. And if you're fighting 50, 60-year-olds, like I don't support it, but it's whatever. But when it's against an athlete, like Jake Paul is a freaking athlete. Like people forget about this. He's a Disney Channel actor or whatever. He's still an athlete at the end of the day. He wrestled, he did boxing or whatever, track, whatever he did in high school. So I don't know. I don't think this fight, I'm not really interested in watching it. I think he should fight a fucking boxer.
I'm going to make it a point to not watch it if they make this fight because this is just fucking ridiculous.
I mean, we're obviously going to watch it, but
I'll watch the highlights. I'm not going to tune in for the fuck that. I'm not even going to stream it. It's
one of those things. It's one of those things like no one wants it to happen, but like obviously everyone is curious to see what the hell is going to happen, even if you don't support it.
Bro, do you want to watch Mike Tyson get knocked out at 60 years old? I don't. Do you?
That's it. I mean, if he signs up for like that's his problem. Like he has the option not to fight. You know, like it's his
care if they both
personal decision.
Do not sanction this fight, bro.
He said he's gonna sign on a dotted line saying that if you die, you die. So if he's willing to do it, like I don't support it once again, just to be clear. But if he does sign that paper, I mean, I'm not going to lie and say I'm not going to watch it. Obviously, I'm going to watch it. As I know you're saying you're not going to watch, but obviously you're going to fucking watch it too. But I think it's stupid. I think that Jake Paul should fight a legitimate boxer. And that's how we're going to give him credit. That's the only way we could give him credit. If he beats a real boxer.
He wants to fight an old man, give him Anderson Silva. If he wants to fight an old man, give him Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
Watch what Silva does with Jake Paul. I guarantee you he outboxes him and makes him look like a child in there. I guarantee you.
I mean, that fight makes a lot more sense, but also with that fight, I think that He's bigger. There's a weight advantage with the Anderson Silva fight.
You don't think he's bigger than Tyson? Tyson's not that tall. Mike Tyson is not tall at all.
I think that he's bigger. I think he's bigger than Mike Tyson as well, but he's talking shit to Conor McGregor. He's talking shit to Masvidal. You know, all these people are smaller than he is. You know, like it's a big difference. We saw the fight with Logan Paul and Mayweather. Like the size makes a huge difference, especially in boxing. So, I mean, they're making money. They're like Jake Paul is like the top paid athlete or something under 25 years old, according to Forbes or something like that. So they're obviously doing something right. You and I are talking about it right now.
Yep.
So, I mean, it is what it is. Like, we've been seeing some crazy shit, some stupid ass fights. 2021, some Donald Trump was on the broadcast. Some weird shit happened in 2021. So, like, everything is possible. Everything is possible, brother.
Just believe in yourself. Love Jesus, people, as Romero likes to say. All right, man. You have anything else you want to add to this round?
Yeah, since you brought up Romero, that's just another fighter I'm not really excited to watch fight anymore. But aside from that, great episode. It's good to have MMA back in my life. It's good to talk to you. Another week, brother. Hope you have a good week. I know we're going to be talking after this, but yeah, it was nice talking to you, man.
Guys, thank you again for joining round 50 of Inside the Clinch. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Leave us a rating on the platform that you listen to us on. On Instagram, we are Inside the Clinch MMA. On Twitter, we are ITC MMA Podcast. On Facebook and YouTube, we are Inside the Clinch MMA Podcast. And for any email inquiries, please email info@insidetheclinch.com. Thank you guys. Catch you next week.